Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. Shit. You can tell I don't do anything but found footage Fridays anymore. I don't remember how to do the intro. I don't remember how to push the buttons. I don't remember what the name of the series or the show is.
Brutal.
This time is staying in. Welcome back to Underrated Gems with my co-host, Radardeboard.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Will this mini-series be a gem? I think so.
Yeah, it already is. We've only done 2 so far, and it's been an adventure.
A wild ride, y'all.
Yeah. So far we've done Galaxy of Terror and The Brain.
And they're both fantastic in their own way.
Just go watch the episodes.
Just go watch the episodes. Or you can watch the movies too.
You could watch the movies. Most of the ones on your list for this were streaming. There's only like 1 or 2 that wasn't out of all 10. So those 2 are definitely available online to watch for free.
I wonder why.
Because they're so great, according to you.
Yeah, come on. That's why.
So as we mentioned in the previous episode, this time we're going to talk about the 1980 movie. Is it a classic? I always want to say classic with these because they're older.
I would say cult classic for sure.
Cult classic film, Humanoids from the Deep.
Ooh, which also just sounds like some creature feature from the 50s. So it's the perfect movie, I feel like, that was like title-wise to trick old people who were alive in the 80s who were like, oh, I just want to kind of one of them cheesy sci-fi movies. I'll just grab this real fast.
Because that's what old people alive in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you don't know.
You nailed it. That's what they sound like here. It's perfect. Yeah. So once again, this was a first watch for me. But we'll start with, why do you think this is an underrated gem?
I feel like, sometimes you just want to turn off your mind, and you just want to kind of watch something and just have fun along the way, and you just want it to have a lot of action and creature feature madness, and that's exactly what this is. And of course, it's by Roger Corman also, and it's got just enough of that kind of sleaze to it, but it's the thing I love about Roger Corman when he does his movies is like there is a sleazy element to it, but you can tell it's like coming from an educated man going like, we can slap that in there for business purposes.
For business purposes,
he's like, you gotta at least show 2 pairs of breastises, slap it in there,
and then
that'll drive up revenue twofold, that type of deal.
It does feel, at that point, you're right, it does feel very methodical. I guess I can see what you mean. I agree with that. I didn't hate this one.
Hey, there you go.
This one was kind of fun. It's very like, well, it's kind of, yeah, because the whole movie's not sleazy, so I wouldn't say it's like a sleazy creature from the Black Lagoon, but it definitely kind of touches in some of those kind of, I don't know, like atmosphere and like some of the way, obviously, like the way that things look and stuff. So I'm gonna do like I did last time and read some of my notes just because of the way I was trying to shorthand stuff. So the first thing I wrote about this one is Jaws underwater intro. Boat almost catches one and then blows up.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is exactly totally a ripoff of Jaws for that intro.
Jaws. It starts out like underwater, and I was like, okay, which I mean, I'm not mad at. I thought it was very funny. It made me laugh, so it was still entertaining. But yeah, essentially, this was a kind of a fun one. I didn't hate this. I grew up on like cheesy sci-fi creature feature stuff, so creature feature stuff, kind of like what the exception, I guess, of Galaxy of Terror, but like we talked about with The Brain, like weird stuff like that does typically just I don't know if it's nostalgia or what it is, but it just typically I like that kind of stuff, even if it's older when I haven't seen it before. But I kind of
Right.
liked this one. It was like they start out do like killing like they find like what dead dogs first or something, and then it's
Yeah.
like and then it kind of escalates from there, and you see more and more of them as time kind of goes on, and then you've got this weird like the cannery versus like the Native American people that live in the town, and there
Yeah.
it's kinda got some a little bit of layers that I don't think going into something like this, I would have necessarily thought was gonna be there. That kinda surprised.
Mm. It is definitely surprising that it's like, you they did not have to slip, like, social commentary into
Right?
this, but, like, I'm glad that they did.
Yeah, I wasn't mad at it. I mean, I felt like, it did take me off guard, but I think it really adds to kind of the overall charm of the film because it does start out, you feel like you kinda know what you're getting, I think, within the first, I don't know,
Right.
like 30 seconds of it. But then there's things throughout, like some really good, like I mean, honestly, I wouldn't call this like a super scary film, right? Obviously, I think if this happened in real life, it probably would not be super fun to experience, but in general, it's not like an overwhelmingly scary film, but there are some moments where this did was able to build tension. Like when the woman's at home and her baby's in the crib and she's on the phone and you know it's
Oh, yeah.
coming, but you can't like tell her because they don't listen through the TVs, right? And so there was moments like that though where you're kind of like, oh God, okay, 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 okay. Like it like builds up to these kind of like tensiony
Right.
moments. And I thought it surprisingly did a good job with stuff like that.
And it especially, like, raises the tension because, like,
Yeah.
you know what
What
the creatures are doing to women, and you're
yeah,
like, "Oh, no, I don't want this to be like." And this is the kind of film where you're like, "Did they show it on screen? You know,
right.
would they have one of those scenes in this movie?" And it's like, "Probably."
Yeah, well, and especially because I watched these for the most part in the order you sent them. So by the time I got to this one, I had already seen Galaxy of Terror, and I was like, maybe I guess it's gonna, but
Uh-oh.
it doesn't. But it definitely gives you enough to know that they're essentially there to mate. They're trying to. That's why it's only women, and so yeah, it does give you enough without it being like too much,
Right.
right? I feel like so
It
because if it
walks
was too
that
much
fine
of that,
line.
I would have been mad. I would have been like, okay, I'm not watching this, but it wasn't too bad. One of the other notes I wrote was a kitchen phone scene reminiscent of Halloween.
Alright.
The movie Halloween, when she's on when I forget what the girl's name is. I'm not a big Halloween junkie. But when she's on the phone and she's talking and there it's kind of like the same like buildup of like he's there and she's
Oh, right.
completely oblivious and anyway, that's what it made me think of. So that's what I do. I write in stream of consciousness when I'm like watching stuff. But I like this. I like it's like it's got this weird like tie-in. You've got this scientist that's there and or doctor or whatever, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we're trying to figure it out. And they try to add this like level of science to it as to like where what they're doing and what they are. And
Right.
not to
It
fully explain it though, let's be clear. It doesn't fully explain it
No.
through most of the film, and then you get a little bit more of it, like, right at the end, but I just feel like this felt like it had effort behind it. It wasn't just this,
Right.
like, mindless creature feature, which those are fine too, but this felt like it had intention, and I think that's probably why I liked this one, is it just felt like it more like it had a story to tell, I guess.
Right. It wasn't just like your typical cash grab. They like
No,
actually
no.
put some thought into it and went, you know. And I think like you said, the Native American versus the cannery subplot, that's interesting. And
Right.
then like the ending, like the last 20 minutes, they just go balls to the wall with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And because it doesn't start out explaining any of that, it's like it starts out very differently. Hold on a second. What?
Uh-oh.
Okay. There you go. Sorry.
What a cutie.
Yeah, he's okay sometimes. I'll keep him.
Okay.
Um anyway, yeah, so when you go into this film, you think it's one thing and then I think it just keeps adding stuff to it. And it starts with their what are they in there? Are they in like a bar or something? The first time it introduces the whole like Native American and the can stuff. It's
I'm
like
pretty sure it's a bar.
I think it's a bar. It's some kind of building in the town, and there's like, and then I remember like watching this and being like, what? 'Cause I wasn't expecting, but you're right, it amps it up later, but it was a really interesting touch given what this film could have been. It was pretty
Right.
surprising, I
And I
think.
wasn't yeah, it's like there's a few additional scenes in there where you're like, "Oh, well, that's just a nice little flavor," like the fist fight in the parking lot where you got
Yeah.
people brawling, and it's like, "Well, this is fun. I enjoy this."
Yeah. It definitely doesn't stay in, like, one little box. It does, like I feel like it branched out quite a bit. Because like, I feel like when you have stuff like this where you have, like, the doctor, the scientist, or whatever trying to figure stuff out, that is often, I feel like, the focal point, but
Right,
this really wasn't the focal point of this. It was just kind of like an added thing to the story, and then you've got this brawl and this rivalry and this situation going on between these 2 groups of people, and it felt very, like, fleshed out for something like this, which was a pleasant surprise. I mean, I probably would have liked this if it was like a dumb creature feature too, because those are super, super fun.
right.
But for something like Humanoids from the Deep to be, like, deep, like, I wasn't expecting it to have these layers or whatever, so I thought that was pretty neat,
Right.
overall.
Deep wasn't just an adjective to slap on the
That's
title.
right.
The
No,
movie
it had
itself is
has
deep.
some things going on with it that I think, and I would even say, because I don't feel this way about every movie I watch in general, but I do think this has some rewatchability. I think it was entertaining in a way that, like, you go back and I think you could still enjoy it, you still laugh, still be invested in it, even if, like, maybe on, like, a 3rd or 4th watch, because it's really, like I think you said it perfectly. You said, "Sometimes you just like to cut off your brain." Not cut it off, turn it off. I don't know, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but absolutely. This is that kind of film where you're like, I just wanna put something on to, like, fall asleep to or just
Yeah,
have in
you
the
don't have
background.
to yeah, you don't have to, like, super fixate on it, you don't have to pay attention to every detail to understand what's going on. I think that part of it is very black and white, and yeah, you could pick it it's one of those, like, TV movies, right, where you could, like, cut it on, it's in the middle of it, and you just finish
Right.
watching it, one of those kind of movies.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's I mean, the premise is really simple, and it's pretty yeah, like you said, black and white. Fish creature, bad. That's it.
Scientist, ambiguous. That's the only
Ambiguous.
thing.
Is just there? Question mark?
Not sure, dot, dot, dot. Yeah, it's very, I don't know, and I love it that this is, the wrapping when it wraps up, the ending, it's like the town just is like, "Yeah, we're just gonna fight back," and I kinda love that too. I was like,
Right.
"That's a cool," 'cause there was no, like, one hero or one solution. It was like everybody was like, "You know what? We're sick of it. We're just gonna start beating their ass," and they just go back, and they just they
Yeah, they
just
just wallop them.
yeah, they're like, "Okay, we're taking our town back," and I thought that made for, like, a super fun little take on it. Because typically with these kinda things, there's this huge other thing that they try to do, but this was more just like, "This is our town, and we're tired of you being here, so we're just gonna
Right.
fight you."
Just a nice little rally point at the end and, like, an
Yeah,
all-out brawl. I absolutely adore that, the last, like, 20 minutes of this
yes,
film.
yeah. It's at what, like, the fairgrounds, or it's at the fair, the carnival, or whatever it is,
Yeah,
the
they're, like,
carnival?
carnival or they're fair and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I I think the character that I was surprised that when they bit the dust, that I was so happy they did was, like, the disc jockey.
Yeah,
I was like,
he
"Oh,
was
thank God."
awful. He was one of the worst characters, I agree. I was not sad when he died. Yeah,
Which
he
is
was not bad.
it's so funny because like, the other who you would think of, like, if it was just, like, a regular drama or something, like, the typical bad guy
Mhm.
kinda redeems himself during
Yeah,
that
there's,
big
like, an
sequence.
actual arc to the situation. They're like, "Eh, we'll just kill him."
Yeah, let's go but the disc
He
jockey, he
doesn't
gotta
have
go.
any redeemable qualities. Let's just
Get that guy out of here. I feel like I feel like maybe he, like Roger Corman owed him a favor and was like, "Well, screw this guy."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was yeah, I was not sad about that one. And then there's, like, after you go through this whole thing and the town, like, fights back, they're like, "All right, cool." Then you get this, like, kinda afterthought where this scientist who has been questionable, I feel, the whole
Yeah.
time, goes back and basically, like, delivers these, like, frog creature baby things
Yes. At the end, it's
from the
like kinda
humans, from the human
yeah.
host. Yeah.
It's and it's it's like, what a way to end it again, because you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's you because you think with like this typical creature feature, it just kind of ends like that normally, or there's like a cheesy type of like fake out where it has like
Mhm.
one of the monsters go and pop out of the
The last
water.
at the last second.
Yeah, like that type of deal. It's what you're expecting. Not, oh no, the creature's kind of won here.
Yeah, like nothing was stopped.
Nothing
Like
was stopped.
because all the people who interact with her, like nobody knows that. It's like
Yeah,
nobody knows that she's doing this. Nobody knows like there's always that question and then they're like, "All right, we won. We defeated them, right?" And then there's like this it's not really like a post-credit scene, but it's like right after the scene where they fight in the carnival and we get our little we did it things and then it's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, also like
right.
we are still doing this thing and you didn't really actually win anything." So I liked kind of
Psych.
that not dire because it doesn't feel super serious, but you know what I mean. That like kind of bleak ending where it's like,
Right.
well, yeah, the good guys didn't really win this time. The scientist did, or doctor, or whatever she's supposed to be. She was like, oh yeah, she won.
It's kind of like, it feels like when a town like in real life, when a town does something, like they put a
Hmm.
law on the book and you're like, yeah, this is gonna really help things. And then there's just like some dingus on the city council who's like lurking in the background. You're like,
Yeah,
oh god, we gotta watch out for this guy. You know?
yeah,
And that's what it
yeah.
feels like. It's not like the bad guy won necessarily, but it's like, well, there's still a moron hanging around.
Yeah, and then in this case, that person has like the resources and is essentially like continuing or starting over or however I don't remember how many they actually, like, take out in the ending, but, yeah, that was, I didn't expect it because I don't at least I don't remember, I don't think they give you anything like that, like, we don't know very
Not
much at all
really.
about them that I remember correctly, and then there's just like, "Oh, yeah, by the way, here's this secret," that you didn't know the entire movie, and you're
Right.
like, "This bitch, I knew it." Like, I just knew. I was like,
You
"Okay."
feel it.
Yeah, so that was fun. I
Yeah.
liked.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because like they talk about how they are just trying the fish people are just trying to breed, but
Yeah.
it's like, is that even possible? Like, does the anatomy even line up? And they don't really say anything on it. Yeah, but then in the end, they're like, oh, it does.
Yeah, I feel like when you do things like this, I think a lot of what ends up not working is when they do try to over explain. So I think not explaining it and then just giving us that and that being like it for a story like this, I think that works really well because I've seen movies where they try to do the science and you're like, okay, I don't have a movie science degree, right? But I feel like that doesn't make any sense. So it's better sometimes to be vague.
Yeah,
'Cause then it's okay that it doesn't we don't know enough. We don't need to always know everything, and this is, like, one of those times where they give you, like, enough to make you uncomfortable, I would say, because then you're like, "Ugh," but not
you're like,
enough to
oh,
be like, "And here's the printout of everything and, like, how it works." And I think it makes sense for this type of film. It worked.
right. Because I mean, this kind of thing was done kind of like a little bit, that same kind of premise of like, oh, I'm giving
Mhm.
birth to something awful was done in The Fly, you
Oh,
know.
sure.
But it's
Yeah.
like, well, Cronenberg has that kind of background. He has that like science
Yeah.
ability, so he can
It
describe that.
it was fine in that situation,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
expecting a Roger Corman film to reach that level by any means. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Keep that to a minimum.
Or like in Sky Sharks where they try to like explain how sharks are not only flying but don't need water to live. And you're like, I think it's fine that we don't know that. I think it's fine because I don't know that we're coming into this expecting to walk away with the science-based knowledge. I think we're watching this because it's sharks flying in the sky, so
Right,
it I think in some instances it's like, yeah, it's okay to probably not explain it. And I think it works in this one because they, like I said, they give you enough to make it creepy and uncomfortable and weird to keep you interested because you want to know what's going to happen or what's going on, but
right,
not over explaining it to the point where you're like, that was dumb. I don't like it. I think it works.
right. It's not like look, guys, the title isn't amphibious beings from an unknown location or something like that. That's like super sciencey. This is humanoids from the deep. That's all you
Yeah.
need to know. That's
It's
all you're gonna
very
get.
simple. It's very simple, and I don't know, I think it worked. Yeah, I really liked this one. Like I said, I'd never seen it. It's not one I'm trying to think if I don't remember, but I don't know that I'd ever really heard of it, or if I had, maybe it just wasn't I don't feel like I hear a lot of people talking about this one.
Yeah, I like I said, it's a cult classic, but it's I feel like until recently, it's been a very like sort of small subsect of a cult
Yeah.
because like not a cult, but of like a following because uh, no, of just like a following because like
Yeah.
I feel like people have kind of until like the past 10 years or so when it comes to horror kind of went and hid the sleazier sort of movies and went
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we're too good for that." But now
Yeah.
that like people are accepting that and you have all these sort of like films with
It's
gruesome
fair.
kills and all this stuff coming out, people are more like, "Wait a minute. Humanoid slaps."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why in general, to your point, you're seeing older stuff like that get talked about more now because it's like, oh, okay, like it doesn't have to be a top secret information that I like this movie, or, that
Right.
I own it, or that I watch it, 3 times a week or whatever. People are just kind of like, and I've noticed that with like trends, like with movies that used to be hated, or all of a sudden like everybody's like, this one's better than the original, and you're like, where were we all 10 years ago when I already
Right.
felt that way? So I think, yeah, I think to your point, it's becoming, I feel like it sounds dumb to say, but I feel like horror in the last, like, I don't know, 5 to 6 years or so has been like becoming more mainstream again, and just in general is
Yeah.
like more accepted than it used to be. 'Cause it used to be like, you like horror movies, you must be a psychopath, right?
Right.
And, now it's like, "Oh, yeah, horror movies, like, make money and people want to see them and they're entertaining," and there's always like, "Yeah, y'all have been saying this shit for, like, 30 years. I don't know what the" longer than 30 years. I just haven't been alive that much longer.
Well, yeah. But I
But
mean, there's it's
yeah.
very interesting. Horror always has had this like stigma around it,
Yeah,
but certainly there's been a relaxing of it. And like you said, in the
I
past 5 or 6 years.
I agree. Yeah, and it's an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I feel like some of that too, ironically, that allowed for people to come out and fully say with their chest, "I love humanoids," is elevated horror, because elevated horror kind of made people go like, "Oh yeah, horror is a legitimate medium
All the
here."
things to make it like that though, right? Because 'Cause I'm not
I
super into
know.
what they consider elevated horror, but yeah, I think, yeah, so I expect to see more people talking about this one in the future, and other stuff that we're gonna cover as well. Because a lot of the movies that you wanted to talk about that you put on these lists, quite a few of them I had never even heard of until,
Wild.
or if I had heard of them, it was only because you talked about them, or maybe like a couple other people, there's some, I would say there's kind of some bigger ones on here too, but for the most part, it's kind of the point is they're underrated because they're not talked about a lot. And it'll be interesting to see what the next like 5 years brings. There'll be people talking about humanoids from the deep all the time on social media.
Fingers crossed. We need
And
it.
Radar will be like, I was the first.
It was me. I did it.
You're welcome.
It's the most hipster thing to do. Go like, "I was the
Oh,
trendsetter."
I did this before it was cool. That's me. That's me with found footage. I'm like, noobs.
Noobs. It is hey, found footage is gaining ground.
So bizarre. So bizarre. Yeah. But anyway, but no, I liked Humanoids from the Deep. This was one I liked. So
What would you say what was your favorite scene in the movie?
let me see if I could
Ooh.
pick one besides the two I mentioned, because those I did probably already talk about my two most favorite, which is the carnival let's kick their ass scene, and the scene with the mom when she's on like the
Mhm.
phone and you see. Um, I gotta say, I think I really like the ending scene where we get to see like this doctor, and I gotta say, I also really love that the doctor's a woman. Just because, like, you know what? There's just something extra about it.
Right.
Cause like, no offense, but you're like a bad man. Okay, sure, right? But
Norm,
you're
yeah.
like this woman had me thinking she was probably okay for like most of the movie. And so then for her to ultimately be the one who's like really into like involved in this situation and the cause, or not that's quite exactly the cause, but a big part of it and the reason it happens. And I thought once we did the fight, I thought, okay, well, that's all we're ever going to get from this. We're never going to know more. And so that scene was probably the one that caught me the most off guard, but I think it was like the perfect way to end a movie like that. So that
Oh
I would
yeah.
probably say it's a toss up between those 3 because those 3 were my favorite scenes, I think, in the whole movie. What's your favorite scene?
Those 3 are honestly fantastic, and
Yeah,
the one where she is in the house and she, like, has to defend herself against them is fantastic.
that's a really good one too.
But
Yeah,
I have to give a throw out since you already did those 3, I have to give a throw out to the fist fight in the parking lot
in the
because
parking lot.
it's like, why is this happening in this movie? Like, they're
I
going
love
at
it.
it. They're just
I love
full
it.
on brawl, and I love that. I don't know why.
Yeah. You gotta love a good, like, 80s fist fight in a movie because they're just
Yeah.
done so differently, right, than, like, now. When they do scenes like that, it was good.
I was
Out
gonna
of
say
nowhere, but good.
yeah, I was now it'd be like 18 cuts for, like, 3 punches thrown,
Oh,
they'd go, like
yeah.
and in this one, they probably just actually beat the shit out of each
Just hit
other.
each other. Yeah,
Yeah, they just actually
looks pretty realistic, so, yeah, I could see that too. Yeah, that was
every
a really
"oof"
good
is
scene.
the actor actually getting smacked in the face.
Yeah, sound effects for fight scenes in general. Yeah. No, that's a good one too. This did have quite a few good scenes in it though. And I was pleasantly surprised at its ability to build tension during certain moments because like I said, I wouldn't say it was super scary, but it definitely had moments where you were like really focused on it because you felt that little bit of something like, okay, oh no,
Right.
right? Especially because that one scene has like a baby in a crib. You're like, you know,
Right, are
uh
they gonna eat that baby?
like, what is gonna happen? Because I think that isn't that scene kinda early? So that's before we realize what's actually happening, or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's after. I don't
I was gonna
remember.
say it's pretty late in the film, but
Is it late? I couldn't remember.
yeah.
So, yeah, so you do kinda okay, so you know the but either way, so you're like, you know,
Not the kid.
the mom's in danger. What's gonna happen to the baby? You know? That was a good one, though. I liked it. No, this was a good one. I liked Humanoids from the Deep.
There you go. It's got the Voices from the Mausoleum stamp of approval, y'all.
And I will agree with you. I don't know if I said this in the last 2 episodes or not, but I will agree. I know I didn't say it about the first one. I will agree with you that this is an underrated gem. I think more people should be talking about this one because this is definitely a fun movie with some very, I would say, if you've never seen it before, some very unexpected things added that I think really add like some pun intended depth to the film. So, see, you're 2 for, how does it go?
2 out of
Two,
3.
2 out of 3.
To quote Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
You're my favorite co-host for miniseries. The stuff you say is so funny. No, I like this one. So if you haven't seen Humanoids from the Deep, it was streaming. I'm assuming that it still is. You should check it
It's
out. And if
somewhere.
you didn't watch the previous episodes, go watch them. We did, like I said, Galaxy of Terror and The Brain, which was another one that I liked and agreed with you that it was an
Yeah.
um, underrated gem. So, next time we will be talking about the 1979 movie Tourist Trap, which I do think is one that I've heard talked about a little bit more than the other ones that we've covered so far. But so we'll do that one next time. As always, Radar's links will be in the description below. You can make sure you're following him and reading his books and checking out his irritating series where he brings up all the people we hate in horror movies, or he talks about how sad or people deserve better in horror movies, and he just does things that start my day off cranky because I'm like, oh, he's so right. This person sucks. Speaking of really quick in your
You're welcome.
series, because I know you did Mika, I saw a I saw a video yesterday that was like the 5 worst movie husbands or boyfriends, and I recognized the background behind her immediately, and I was like, the first one's Mika, and she was like, "This motherfucker," and she went off. She was like, "He did this. It's his fault. This happened," and I was like, and it made me think of your series immediately. I was like, "Oh, he
There
covered
you
Mika
go.
already."
I did it first.
Yeah, once again, once again. So yeah, so make sure you're following Radar so you can see his content and check out his books. And I think that's all we have for this episode of Underrated Gems. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next one.
I